Hi, I'm Matthew Hernandez, and this is Book Chats with You. In this and almost every episode, I try to make this be a conversation with you about literature. Some stories allow a different way for me to engage in questions towards you, and some of them sound a bit more like me making a summary of it. I can get better at this, but I deal a little bit with what the story gives me. Today, we're looking at the subsequent story, and the story and its writer by Ann Charters. The next story in this series is James Baldwin's Sonny's Blues. Now, this story is a very easy story to find many things about. It seems to be a very popular one, and you could find plenty of videos of people reading the whole story out loud, different commentaries, different reviews, easy to find a PDF of it online. Below, I will post a copy of a PDF and somebody else reading the story. And if you don't like that reading of it, you could find plenty of others too. It's a very common story. Now, I'm re-recording this because, for one, I want to have these videos a bit short, but there's enough going on here. So as I try to summarize this, if I miss something, it could be because maybe I just missed it. Honestly, it could also be because I have to try to condense this down enough to also get to going off here and doing some commentary and that type of thing. So, this story, we have these two brothers, a bit estranged. They're 7 years apart, the unnamed narrator, and then his brother Sonny. A lot of things in the story go unnamed, frankly, besides the narrator. The narrator's two sons, we don't get their names. Plenty of characters don't get names. We get the narrator's daughter's name, Grace. Now, in this story, the narrator favors a more stable life. He is a teacher in Harlem. He lives in the area he lives in, that way he's kind of inside the same area he grew up in. He cares about his students. Sonny has always had a bit more of a troubled life, but not all that's completely his own fault. Sonny's parents had died while Sonny was still growing up. There being a 7-year age difference, I mean, if I sit here long enough and I could sort of guesstimate Sonny's age, but Sonny is partially orphaned. His parents died before he turned 18. So Sonny is sent to live with the narrator's wife's family, Isabel. Her name's Isabel, her family. And it drove them insane because, well, if one's hobby is music, maybe one's hobby is to go into the other room and make podcasts as well. It could be a little bit loud for others, right? So we would just sort of play the same sounds over and over and over again for on the piano, on a record, on this, on that, and just go back and forth and just drive them crazy. They've gone back and forth to chatting to Sonny living with his older brother and all this. At one point, Sonny lives with various vagrants, and his older brother felt very disrespected. And so at one point, Sonny kind of disappears. He does some drugs and he gets caught. This is kind of where the story actually starts, and the narration goes back and forth. I like it. It makes for a bit of a jarring listen if I'm going to make this video and stuff, because it mentions the death of the daughter Grace at one point. Then it kind of it doesn't go into much detail, then it gives more later on. And it's a bit jarring how that happens. But I like it because it reflects real life, the way we might think. Even a situation yesterday, out of nowhere, somebody had asked me if I'd be interested in a job. I don't know if I would really go get it, so I have to do the interview and stuff, but it sounded very good. The pay's better than what I'm getting now and stuff. And it just how life just kind of goes this back and forth, this ebb and flow, where all of a sudden, everything I'm doing to leave China would be like, oh, maybe I'd stay longer and all that, right? And so whenever Sonny gets out of jail, his brother picks him up. They take the scenic route through Harlem, and it describes from the scenery. It's not much, but the story doesn't describe all the scenery of stuff all that much, all that well and stuff. It just focuses on the relationship between the two of them. Now, a bit with the relationship is also that the older brother, he feels inside of a certain way he doesn't know how to be an older brother, but his his mother, had made him promise to take care of him. Their father passed away first, out of their mother-father order, and their father, we learned that he had a brother, and he was quite close to his brother. His brother was killed by some racist whites. They weren't trying to kill him, they were trying to scare him. But the father's brother was drunk, the whites were drunk, they hit him by the car. Ever since then, his father didn't like whites. And so part of that is his mother saying, take care of your brother. And the narrator wonders if he's kept true to that promise. So his brother has wanted to be a musician. And part of this is like the brother doesn't do schooling. And the brother isn't attending school. He rips up the letters from the school and whatnot. And yet his brother wants to use the GI Bill after the Army or Navy, and his brother's considered joining. And so this story was published in 1957, and it says after the war. I think that implies World War II. The thing about it is that some of these stories deserve a bit more respect for me to go and research these things and stuff and make sure 100% abundantly clear that that's what it means. I mean, it could always mean the Korean War, but that's the nature of trying to put out these videos, these podcasts in a timely manner as well, right? So then, whenever Sonny finally moves back in with his brother, only about 2 weeks, I guess the narrator doesn't trust him. He wants to look at his room. I'm guessing for drugs or some kind of drug paraphernalia or whatever. But then he kind of hesitates. There's some noise outside. He goes out there. It's like a Christian religious revival event. And so one man, he's kind of preaching to people. Then he's got like his 2 or 3 sisters, and one of them's kind of playing the tambourine. They hear some music. It's not very good, but Sonny's there and he's like taking notes. And so he's kind of taking notes and he's watching. At this moment, we have one of the more honest, sincere conversations that I imagine Sonny and his brother have had. I don't mean just sincere where they're accusing each other, but there's a level of connection they're sort of getting. Sonny invites his brother into his own world, and he sort of sees what this sort of bluesy, jazzy world is like. Something he didn't know, something he didn't see. So, and then at one point, when Sonny is finally playing and he's in his groove, the narrator can finally feel all these little moments told to us throughout the story are all coming to him at once. And he could feel that the narrator's pain is also his brother's pain and all that. Now, one more thing too is that the whole thing with the unnamed narrator and the focus is on Sonny, the story's called Sonny's Blues, is that like, it's a very interesting thing because when I'd recently done a video on Carol Shield's story Fragility, there's an unnamed narrator and the focus is on the wife Ivy. And this is an interesting thing, right? You get the unnamed character, but yet you would think it'd be a place to hear one's own thoughts in themselves rather than a focus on somebody else and the perspective about how do my eyes, focus on out, because my eyes can't see myself. But, if I'm living my day and I'm just constantly looking at my wife and what she's doing, and I'm describing that in my own mind to be transcribed to my phone or something like that later on. It's a very interesting thing. Okay, I don't like these to be super long. I'm going to try. And if I have to even cut myself off a little bit as I'm talking, I will cut myself off a little bit. I will try to not make this super, super long. Okay, here. So, oh my gosh. Here it kind of starts. So, one of Sonny's friends growing up, he enters the school campus that the narrator's on. As I look here, page 37, I'll read this. He sort of shuffled over to me and he said, I see you got the papers, so you already know about it. You mean about Sonny? Yes. I already know about it. How come they didn't get you? He grinned. It made him repulsive, but it also brought to mind what he looked like as a child. I wasn't there. I stayed away from them people. Good for you. I offered him a cigarette and watched him through the smoke. You come all the way down here just to tell me about Sonny? That's right. And I find this interesting. There's a use of smiles I don't think I captured enough, but the narrator doesn't always trust people's smiles. There's something interesting. Doesn't trust the guy, always kind of gives him money, gives him $1. I don't know what $1 was worth back at the writing of the story, but it certainly was worth more than it is now. And then you give a cigarette to somebody. There's something interesting about with a cigarette, right? It doesn't mean you exactly like somebody. It's just a communal thing somehow, some way, right? Okay, here. Then it says on page 39, and I'm sorry, there was an excessive use of highlighter here, but I'm going to try to show some thoughts while trying to not make this extremely long either. So as I read from here, page 39, tell me, I said at last, why does he want to die? He must want to die. He's killing himself. Why does he want to die? He looked at me in surprise. He licked his lips. He don't want to die. He wants to live. Don't nobody want to die, ever. This is an interesting contradiction in life, right? If you do something constantly, regularly harmful to oneself, what's it kind of stating? Doesn't it state that you kind of want to die? Like alcohol is a carcinogen. I've only drank alcohol like twice in like the last like 4 months or something. And if somebody's drinking alcohol regularly, they can get cancer, right? So, I don't know, it's a hard thing. When you have certain vices, you don't want to do it. Just kind of control somebody. I don't know. I think as I get older, I have a bit more sympathy. Not that I experience these things as much, but you just sort of think sometimes. You just sort of think, did I avoid vices because I'm good? Or just because I have a habit of not doing vices, Okay, here. So he finally writes to him after his daughter's death, but Sonny takes a while to reply. Dear brother, you don't know how much I needed to hear from you. I didn't write for you many a time, but I dug how much I must have hurt you, and so I didn't write. So not writing becomes the reason to not write, becomes the reason to not write. And I would hope with some people that there'd be a closeness that we wouldn't do that, but it's not easy. Okay, let me see here. It says here, page 43. So this is after his mother, the father's funeral had passed. The narrator's mother tells her, be close with your brother Sonny. Take care of him. I want to talk to you about your brother, she said suddenly. If anything happens to me, he ain't going to have nobody else to look out for him. Which is interesting. One would hope they're going to live long enough, at least until their kid graduates school and is a legal adult and start, raising them to do that. But she doesn't make it that long. And this matters. He made a promise to his mom. I think he could reasonably say he tried to maintain his promise, but he wonders, the narrator wonders if he fulfilled that promise to his mother. Okay, let's see. It says, 2 days later, I was married and then gone, and I had lots on my mind and pretty much forgot my promise to Mama till I got shipped home on a special furlough for her funeral. After the funeral, with just Sonny and me in the empty kitchen, I tried to find something else about him. What are you going to do? I asked him. I'm going to be a musician, he said. For he had graduated in that time I'd been away, from dancing to the jukebox to finding out who was playing what and what they were doing with it. And he had bought himself a set of drums. You mean you want to be a drummer? I somehow had the feeling being a drummer might be all right for others, but not for my brother Sonny. I don't think, he said, looking at me very gravely, that I'd be a very good drummer, but I can play piano. Now, if anything, these were the pages that I was going to show on the screen, but it was quite excessive. But this is big conversation, and they kind of get into an argument here because, I think part of it, things are kind of heated. The narrator's not going to be home long. Their mother just died. Sonny's a bit of an orphan, and emotions are running high. And how does one have some of these conversations? It can't be easy. It can't be easy. But I think that the older brother could have handled this a bit well. But if you think about it, he's not that old himself. How old might he be? Like 20 or something? I mean, he's not 20 or 21. I mean, what were contracts in the army like back then? Probably like 3-year contracts or something like that. I think they were. I think they were shorter. I think 4 years is 4 years active duty with 4 years non-active reserve, being 8 total, but really 4 has been the standard practice for a long time. But for a while, I think it was shorter. Okay, here. Well, then, for Christ's sake, stop kidding around and answer a serious question. I mean, do you want to be a concert pianist or not? You want to play classical music, and for all that, or what? Long before I finished, he was laughing at, for Christ's sake, Sonny. He's sober, but with difficulty. I'm sorry, but you sound so scared, and he was off again. Well, you may think it's funny now, baby, but it's not going to be so funny when you have to make your living at it. And let me tell you that. I was furious because I knew he was laughing at me, and I didn't know why. As I re-record this video, and I look at this so many times, listening to it and reading it, I don't think Sonny's really laughing. I think it's a weird reaction. Like, ever see somebody, they're a normal, decent person, and they hear that somebody died, and at some point, there's like a chuckle. And depending on the moment, it seems twisted and wrong, but something pulls that out of us, and he doesn't know what to say, and his brother's taking it the wrong way. I mean, what is the older brother's plan? Algebra? To be an algebra, to a good, great career, I'm saying, but was that his plan? Is that really what he wants? Well, he looked up. Sonny, I'm sorry, don't get mad. I just don't get it. That's all. Name somebody, a jazz musician you admire. Bird. Who? Bird. Charlie Parker. Don't they teach you anything in the goddamn army? I lit a cigarette. I was surprised. And then a little amused to discover I was trembling. You ever get that feeling? You get into an argument. Things are tense. No one's going to hit anybody, but the tension is so high that you could feel like you have to put your hands up, in front of your face. You got to go into a stance. You got to do something like that. And that feeling is just kind of there, you know? So here, the same conversation. And this conversation alone could be a podcast. Just this conversation alone. He was frightening me a little bit. Cut the crap, I said. We already decided that you was going to go and live at Isabel's. No, what's got into you all of a sudden? You decided it, he pointed out. I didn't decide nothing. Well, what are you going to tell somebody? If somebody's a minor, what can you tell them? What can you tell them? I don't know, I'm sorry, it'd be cool if I could reasonably have a few audience members who are like 16 or something, but I don't know what to tell you. I mean, at my age. And it says, he looked at me, trapped and in anguish. There's ways I might be able to work out some kind of deal. Anyway, I'll have the GI Bill when I come out. If you come out. We stared at each other. Keep in mind, this is at the time of a war. It's not an easy thing to just assume that one would come back alive and fully intact and everything. And this is a bit reflective of my own life, wanting to use the GI Bill, but how much did I care about school? And school, though I have my many mixed feelings that I can't get into every idea here, but being decent at high school would be somewhat of a barometer about how somebody would be in college. It's a small barometer, but it's still there, right? And it says, next paragraph, next subchapter. But he hadn't been going to school. One day a letter came from the school board, and Isabel's mother got it. There he had apparently been other letters, but Sonny had torn them up. Okay. So, let me see. I'm just going to kind of skip a bit more. Then here, I think this is kind of at this revival meeting I mentioned. I said, but there's no way not to suffer, is there, Sonny? Now, I don't think I can fully encapsulate this idea. I don't think I can. I'll just say it briefly. There's something beautiful about suffering. I don't want to suffer. I don't want you to suffer. Let's have a great, wonderful, decent, moral life. But there's something beautiful within it, that this beauty that Sonny makes through suffering, right? And there is a lot of great that can come from it. Not that I'm advocating for any kind of suffering, but nevertheless, I mean, we do get a bit of that here, Okay, on this next page, I've been something I didn't recognize. I didn't know I could be. Didn't know anybody I could be. He stopped, looking inward, looking helplessly young, looking old. I'm not talking about it now because I feel guilty or anything like that. Maybe it would be great if I did. I don't know. Anyway, I can't really talk about it. Not to you. Not to nobody. Next page. When I came back, nothing had changed. I hadn't changed. I was just older. Down the page. All right, I said at last. So can I come again? All right. But the smile was sorrowful. I tried to tell you. Okay. There's a beautiful scene that I was going to read on the second to last page, or basically the last page, when all the music comes back to him. But I think I should wrap this up in about a minute and a half. So many of those words ring true to me. And though I'm the oldest sibling out of my siblings, step half, and so on and so forth, I think I might have some new step siblings who are older than me, which I haven't even met. That's another discussion. But in many ways, I am Sonny. I have not lived up to all my artistic goals, and this is a new kind of artistic goal that I hoped you would join me in. And would the GI Bill help this? Now it's been nearly 10 years of this China journey, and I'm moving home. Have I changed, or am I just older? The age will do something for somebody, but I'm still terrified. I would still rather live in China in so many ways and reasons, and it's not easy. And when I read the story online or read comments, people say the story would make them cry. And when you read it by yourself, you can kind of see it. So as I pull up a random sentence from the last paragraph or so, second to last paragraph, it says, then he began to make this. It was very beautiful because it wasn't hurried and it was no longer a lament. I seemed to hear with what burning he had made it his. With what burning we had yet to make it ours. How could we cease lamenting? Freedom lurked around us, and I understood at last that he could help us to be free if we would listen, that would never be free until we did. Yet there was no battle in his face now. So as he sort of gives up, and if you read this paragraph yourself, he finds this flow, but through this flow, through this freedom, you can feel the pain that the two of them would share. Not just each other, but the lost relatives, the mother, the father, Sonny's niece, the narrator's daughter Grace, and all these events all come back. So it takes him a while to warm up to playing, but once he's playing, his brother could feel it too, and he could feel all those emotions at once. Well, I had to try a few times to condense this down, and maybe there was a way to be even shorter about this. If you made it all the way to the end of this, I thank you very, very much. So have a wonderful day, and I hope you tune in again next time. Thank you. Bye.